It's 2021. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Expressions of Interest information session for Melbourne Knowledge Week 2022. My name's Jennifer Kerr. I'm the Knowledge Programming Lead at City of Melbourne, and thank you all very much for making the time to join us today and find out more about our plans for Melbourne Knowledge Week next year and how you may fit in with those. So to begin today, I would like to respectfully acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we're meeting today, the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung and Bunurong Bunurong people of the Eastern Kulin Nation. I'm on Bunurong country today, and I'd like to pay my respect to elders past, present and emerging. At City of Melbourne, we are committed to our reconciliation journey because at its heart, reconciliation is about strengthening about relationships between Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal peoples for the benefit of all Victorians. So I would like to now introduce the Knowledge Week team to you. Myself, the festival lead, Georgia Simmons, who's our programming coordinator, Blair Ahern, our projects officer, Kate McKenzie, our program officer, and Jacinta White, who is managing our production for the second year. So if you choose to put in a submission, this is the team that you'll be working with throughout the submission and event process. So to start with, we'll do a little overview of Melbourne Knowledge Week. At its heart, Melbourne Knowledge Week is a festival of ideas. We're all about bringing the community together to craft our shared future together. We want as many people to participate in the future direction of Melbourne as possible. We want progress and planning to feel like it's something that people can be part of rather than something that happens to them. So at Melbourne Knowledge Week, we work very closely with our community to start conversations and spark people's imaginations. So, and that's not just within the knowledge sector community, but also the broader civic community in which we operate. So what we're aiming to do is to showcase what's available today, the best of what's available today to achieve our best tomorrow. You'll see a lovely little overview here of Knowledge Week, which started, I think, 13 years ago now, and began just as a website that grouped together knowledge events, which at the time was a very brand new word for drawing together a whole lot of disparate threads and ideas. And then the event evolved into something that was very much for servicing the knowledge sector, bringing together research institutions, academics, government, industry to learn and talk with each other. And then about 5 years ago, we changed the focus of the event to really engage the people who live, work and play in our city to be part of making to be part of that knowledge sharing process and making decisions about how we might apply them as we move into the future. So very much now we're about bringing the sector together, but also bringing the sector together with the community. That's the two parts of what makes Knowledge Week really special. So where we're at the moment, there's a slight pandemic on, you may have heard of it, COVID-19. Unfortunately, in 2020, we did have to cancel Knowledge Week due to what was then an emerging pandemic. We were able to go ahead in 2021, which was fantastic. And in order to make that happen, we had a number of COVID-safe measures in place, using a combination of digital, hybrid and in-person events. And that was in this brief sort of halcyon period between lockdowns that we were able to achieve that, which was really brilliant off the back of having to cancel in 2020. So moving into 2022, we are, of course, continuing to have an adaptive approach. We're very responsive to public health requirements, and some of the ways that we will address that include, and we'll go into detail a little bit later about this, flexible delivery format, changing up the way we do our physical hub. If you've been to a previous Knowledge Week, you may know that we had one single hub. We're now looking at a different approach to that. And also bringing opportunities for learning and engagement into outdoor spaces as well as indoor spaces. And then you'll see on the right-hand side of the screen there The types of events that we have at Knowledge Week, it's very, very broad. People tend to think of us, if they haven't been to a Knowledge Week or had much to do with this, they tend to think of just panels and talks straight away. But actually, it's much broader than that. As you can see there's a full range of event types that we like to program in order to make it appealing and accessible to lots of different parts of our community. And that can include everything from interactive installations to pitch and hack sessions to walking tours and podcasts. So we'll go into what sort of event types we're looking at a little bit further as well. We can do it here. So the event types in particular that we're looking for 2022, and this is not a prescriptive list, this is more a guidance, because otherwise the program can be almost bafflingly broad, and we really want to narrow the focus, concentrate the focus. So we're looking for Aboriginal-led programming, and to be really, really clear, this is referring to programming that has Aboriginal individuals or businesses involved in leading the event. It's not people who are from a non-Aboriginal background proposing events about content. There are protocols for the way that we engage with traditional owners and knowledge holders in our First Nations communities, and we're very very conscious that we also need space for people within that community to lead their own events in the Knowledge Week space. Talks and panels, as I mentioned, incredibly popular for a reason. They're a really great way to transfer knowledge, but we're also looking at ways to be able to engage people directly with each other rather than just a one-way interaction, which is where workshops and interactive installations and exhibitions come into play. With Knowledge Week, we always like to have the approach of don't just tell me, show me. So anything that's hands-on or gives people an opportunity to really directly interact with research or a concept is really, really great. Also on the weekends, we're looking for interactive events during the day, particularly family-friendly events, and they can either be specifically for families or events that can also include families. Both are welcome. And in 2022, we have a concept called Prototype Street, which will be an actual physical physical exhibition that people can walk through to get a sense of what our city streets will look like in the future, and to be able to look at anything from sustainable construction materials to how creative takeovers can create community in urban spaces. So that's a really exciting piece of programming, opens up a lot of doors. And next we have, our council plan. So being City of Melbourne, obviously we are we operate under the guidance of this council plan. This is a new one that has just come into being after extensive community consultation process, and it looks quite different from previous council plans. If you're familiar with ours from past years, everything is built around this idea of the city of possibility. And this plan has been very much informed by COVID. It was developed during the COVID pandemic, so it does incorporate recovery and inclusivity. So we're looking at 4 main areas that Knowledge Week will be addressing: the economy of the future, how to really elevate Melbourne's unique identity and place, Aboriginal Melbourne at its heart. We are on unceded lands, so we want to make sure that the Aboriginal Melbourne First Nation voices are very much part of the conversations about where we go in the future. And climate and biodiversity emergency shouldn't need any more explanation than that. We've been working on that one for a while. So the full council plan is on our website. If you'd like to have a look, you can see the main areas there. But that's what we're looking to, part of what Knowledge Week does is drive these council plan priorities. And now, if you haven't been to Knowledge Week previously, or you didn't get to go last year, we're going to show a little highlight reel, which will give a really great illustration of what Knowledge Week is and what it can be.
This is where you can connect and see what's happening. We're a city with lots of social enterprises and a lot of people that are wanting to, create a better world.
Look, I think COVID has all slowed us down, which I think is good in some ways, but I think what's really important is really being connected and gaining knowledge as part of being able to stay connected to people. And I think that's really important.
It's really interesting to see the variety of things that's on offer, I suppose. Different types of technology, everything from superconductors to virtual reality. Environments like this, they bring different people together from different environments, different fields, and they get different perspectives and get people to kind of think about things in different ways, which ultimately I think gets better outcomes or gets better ideas out there.
Knowledge is important and useful, I think, to create a richer society. Yeah, found it really interesting and would like to do more. Actually really excited to go home and tell my partner all about my day and all the things that I've done.
Wonderful. So it's actually really nice looking back over that. It feels like a long time ago, but it was only April this year. And there we go. So some of the key results from the April Festival this year, you can see on the screen there. We had nearly 34,000 people coming along, which is still an increase from 2019, which is fantastic in COVID times. And we activated 23 venues across the city, including 4 hub venues. And we had a really great audience experience. 93% rated their attendance as a positive experience, and 85% agreed that they're inspired to explore new topics after coming to Knowledge Week, which is fantastic. That's exactly the sort of impact that we're looking for. And you'll see there that our average age of attendees is around 43, and the majority of them are coming from outside the City of Melbourne area, from the broader metropolitan area. So people come in to participate in the events. And we're very proud of the fact that nearly 90% of them were free. That financial accessibility is a really big part of Knowledge Week. And even those that were not free were low cost or accessible pricing in most cases, sometimes just to make sure that we're covering particular costs from an event. So yeah, that's the impacts that we had in 2021, which we're all really proud of. And now I'm going to hand over to Georgia, our Senior Programming Coordinator, to talk a little bit more about the program approach for next year.
Thanks, Jen, and hi everyone. My name's Georgia, and as Jen said, I'm the Senior Programming Coordinator for Melbourne Knowledge Week. This section of the presentation is just to give you a few more explicit directions about the themes and the program pillars of the festival. Some of you might already be really familiar with the festival, and certainly from the video that we just saw and some of what Jen said, you'll be getting the idea, but this is just to go through the language that we use and our point of view on what the festival is all about. So for a while now, we've had these 4 program pillars, and these kind of guide the decisions we make about what content goes into the festival and the character of the content in the festival. So the pillars are positivity, which is not the same as naivety. We know that there are some really big challenges in our future, but we want to take a really hopeful perspective on looking at what the best possible future might be. There's a lot of things in our lives that encourage us to look at what the worst possible future might be. And so Melbourne Knowledge Week is sort of a week of reprieve to actually look at what the rays of hope might be in our future. We have a principle of discovery, which is about, it kind of relates to the thing that Jen was saying earlier of don't just tell me, show me. It's about trusting that our audience are their own agents and can make their own way through the knowledge, and making sure that the festival is never like a one-way dissemination of experts telling non-experts what the knowledge is. It's more about discovering that knowledge together. Closely related to that is interactivity. So we like to see events where people can have a hands-on experience and get a really embodied sense of what they're learning about, not just through words and discussion, but through action and activities and movement and all of those kinds of things. And the last principle is legacy. So this one kind of has a two-pronged thing to it. It's both the legacy that we're building on when we stand here today, and then what legacy that we leave behind from the festival. We don't want the festival to just be a one-week flash in the pan that comes and goes. We want to think about how it connects into the history and the future of our city. On top of that, we have 4 themes for this year's festival. This is a slightly new approach. In the past, we've had a bit of a longer list of themes, and the themes are a little bit more specific. We're not losing all that much content in these themes, but we're just trying to group things together into a more cohesive approach so that our audience can get a better understanding of what the festival is all about. So this year, we're talking about the 4 themes of community and culture, technology, economy, and earth. So hopefully those things are all fairly clear cut in terms of what those themes mean. But one thing that's important to say about these themes is that you don't have to necessarily pigeonhole your event into just one of these themes. We know that these are really porous categories, and you might have, for example, you might be working in a startup that has something to say about both technology and economy, or you might be running a community initiative that can draw together those themes of community and culture and earth around something to do with sustainability within your community. So look at these themes, be guided by these themes, and in the EOI form, you will be asked to identify which of these themes your event falls under, but you'll have the option of selecting more than one, so you don't need to think too rigidly about that. This is also just a little bit of information about what the relationship is between us and you. When you submit your EOI, and if you're successful, this is just a little bit of expectation setting around what we do as a team and then what we ask for you to do. So we curate the festival. We also do a fit out of all of our festival hub spaces. And over the last few years, we've been moving slowly towards a model where more and more of the events do happen in our festival hub or hubs rather than being too much in satellite venues around the city. We'll still have some events in satellite venues, but Jacinta will speak a little bit more to that later in terms of the hub approach for this year. We do deliver a website, very schmick website for all of the MKW events and festival information. And so we'll host all the information about your event on that website, as well as managing ticketing for your event. We do market the festival as a whole, and we look for PR opportunities for the festival as a whole. And so if there is a particularly compelling and newsworthy PR story about your event, we might be able to feature it in that way. We manage the carbon reduction process across the festival. So last year, we were certified carbon neutral for the 2nd year, and we're looking to do that again in 2022. We do manage that process, though. We may need some assistance from you, but it's more to do with venues than to do with event partners. So that will likely be pretty minimal on your side. And we engage with traditional owners about our overall festival content and programming for Melbourne Knowledge Week. In terms of what we then expect you to do, if you're putting forward an EOI and we accept it, then we'll expect you to program, deliver, and staff your event. You do have quite a bit of autonomy in that sense. We do also ask for you to market your own event. As I've said, we do market the festival as a whole, but we still require event partners to be looking for what their particular audience might be, and finding their own marketing and comms opportunities to make sure that you can boost your own event within the festival. We may ask you to collect carbon emissions data for your specific event, and we'll provide a template to help if this is needed. As I said, though, we mainly manage that on our side. If you're not in one of our hub venues, then we'll need you to complete any risk assessment pro formas and things like that for your event. We'll need you to plan for how to resource your work. So this includes both financial resourcing, staff resourcing. There is some minimal support through Melbourne Knowledge Week, but it's certainly not a case that every event gets a budget from us. And most of the time we expect that resourcing happens on your side. And if you have, this one's really important, if there is any part of your event that engages with traditional owner knowledge or Aboriginal knowledge, and your team are not coming from that background and you're not an organisation coming from that background, we need you to engage with traditional owners about your specific event. And crucially, we need you to show us the work there. We really have a high expectation that that work is not left to the last minute, that that work is embedded from the very beginning of planning, and EOIs will probably be looked upon quite critically if there's just a suggestion of, oh, we're thinking about talking to Aboriginal community about this, rather than showing that you're already doing that work. That's really important to us, that those voices are engaged authentically and from the beginning of those processes. All right, I'm now going to pass to Blair, who's going to talk you through some more details of the application process and some tips for putting together your application.
Thanks, Georgia. Hi, everyone. I'm Blair from the Knowledge programming team. I'm here to talk about some application tips to help you complete your expression of interest this year. Our submissions for Knowledge Week, that should say 2022 there. We want to ask our partners to have a look through our slide deck that we'll send out to everyone who's registered for today. As Georgia mentioned, we have program principles, which are positivity, interactivity, discovery, and legacy. So your proposal should, I guess when you're putting together your proposal, have a think about how your event or exhibition may align with one of those principles. And again, we've got the 4 themes there: community and culture, earth, economy, and technology. They are the main themes that we're looking for when we're going to be reviewing EOIs this year. We're building our program based on those themes. So just think about how you can respond and let us know that your proposal fits in there. We're also after timely proposals. We'd love some information about why you think this event should be happening right now or happening in 2022. Is the proposal viable? We're looking for partners who have a demonstrated track record and available resources to put their program and their event together. That being said, we're open to new ideas, and there is support from the Knowledge Week team if you're after additional budget to help make your event or exhibition happen. We want to see information about that, and it's a conversation to be had with the team, and we can discuss options there. And we also really like applications that have a clear takeaway for our audience. We want to be able to give the audience something to think about when they leave Knowledge Week. And if you can put that in your application, then yeah, that's just a really great benefit for us when we're reviewing. The process is quite simple. You're attending an information session now. If you're watching it back in the recording, you've done that. Our key dates for next year are Monday 9th of May to Sunday 15th of May. So we'll be looking for events and make sure that, you know, when you're putting together your planning for it, that's within those dates. The Knowledge Week team is always here to help. We've got our contact email provided at the end of the slides, I believe, and we're happy to talk to you before you're putting together your EOI, or even after you've submitted it, and you have some questions or you want to talk through what you've put together. We're more than happy to help. The deadline is Sunday, the 24th of October. So yeah, by all means, reach out to us if you have any questions. And then in November, once we've reviewed all of the EOIs, we'll be reaching out to everyone and booking in a time to chat more about your concept. Just a couple of further application tips. We've got heaps of resources. Our City of Melbourne Knowledge Week website has information there. We'll provide that in a link when we send out the slides to everyone. But we have heaps of, I guess, resources. The Melbourne Knowledge Week 2021 website is still up, so you can have a look. If you didn't get to attend, you can check out what was in the program this year. have a look through the council plan, and we love proposals that engage with the city's planning goals and current projects. There's a platform called Participate Melbourne, where there is, community engagement on council's active projects and stuff like that, where you can have a look and see what we're working on, if your proposal has alignment to any of those. We love proposals that bring challenging, rigorous and vital conversations to the audience without watering them down, and proposals that create outcomes or future possibilities for people to continue to participate in these conversations. We believe learning is lifelong, and we, again, it's part of our legacy that Knowledge Week gives people the opportunity to continue learning throughout all stages of life. And Melbourne is a diverse community, and we love proposals that engage with our diverse community to explore challenges, ignite big ideas, and discover our future city. Over to Jacinta for some information about our hubs and Prototype Street.
Awesome. Thank you, Blair. Well, as the team has mentioned, I am the producer for Melbourne Knowledge Week. And if your event is in one of our hubs, you'll be dealing with me a lot. A few of you may have visited one of our hubs. You may have been in one of our hubs. You may have had a program that's been in one of our hubs, or even in our Prototype Street, city or lane. But for those of you who might not have been in one of those, I'm going to take you through a little bit of where we have been in the past with these events and programs, and where we're going in the future, and how we're adapting to the ever-changing landscape that is our city. The Melbourne Knowledge Week Hub in past years has been a venue or multiple venues where we have programmed interactive activations, workshops, talks, panels, and so much more. We are really lucky to work with a production agency called Moth, and we'll be doing this again in 2022, and they enable and help us to bring these spaces together in a really engaging way and allow our event partners each individually to shine within this space. You'll see in this slide we have a number of images from our Meat Market Hub from this year, 2021. You can see the amazing creative that the Moth team put into this space, and yeah, it enabled each event partner to really work within the space and have their own voice within the space. Moth Agency, together with me, will also do this for you if you are lucky enough to be a part of our Melbourne Knowledge Week program. If we can go to the next slide, thank you. So this year, we actually explored a dispersed model of hubs. So we also had State Library of Victoria, as well as Melbourne Connect and Wesley Place, all featuring within our hub program. And this was so we could disperse our crowds across central CBD, and also so that we could just sort of get people in and around the CBD, and obviously be a little bit more COVID safe than we had in the past, perhaps. For 2022, we are revisiting this model, and we already have a few hubs locked in, which we're really, really excited about. We are aiming this year to create a precinct, so a precinct of activity along Little Lonsdale Street. State Library of Victoria is back on board this year. We have an amazing play zone that we're working on. It might have a little musical element. And then we have a number of talks and workshops happening at the State Library as well. What we're really, really excited about is that Wesley Place, who joined us in 2021, will be joining us again in 2022. And this will be the home of our Prototype Lane. So in previous years, we've had our Prototype Street, we've had a Prototype City in 2021, 2022 we'll be having a Prototype Lane. And we've got some images of what the Prototype City Street Lane has looked like in the past. So as you can see here, this was 2019. 2019, we had Prototype Street, which was near our meat market, I believe. Blair can probably nod to that. Thank you, Blair. So we had, I'm just going to really look close to the screen here. I'm not sure if you can see my face, but we had V8 experiences, we had food cubes, we had the cooling of the city experiment that dealt with temperatures and everything across the city. So yeah, if your EOI application activation sort of does maybe fit the prototype street or lane, we'll definitely look at programming you in this awesome space. Next slide, thank you. And then in 2021, we had our prototype city. So we ended up creating a bit of a tour around the city that included tours themselves. We had guided tours, we had walking tours. We also had some amazing sort of VR experiences that you could scan certain buildings around the city and travel around the city. So we did a really different dispersed model in 2021. I'm nailing my years. I'm feeling good with my years. They're all over the place since COVID. And these pictures here are of our hub at Wesley Place, in which we had a few of our prototype city activations, but we also had just a whole lot of programming in regards to talks and workshops, and we had some really cool interactive exhibitions. What you're seeing on the top picture is actually one of our play zones that we created with Moth in 2021, and that was for us to try and disperse the crowd as they worked their way into our different hubs. Now, prototype street, city, lane, what is it? Forget about memory lane. How about we walk down a street of the future? Prototype Street invites visitors to talk the walk down the street of a future, exploring the potential hardware and technology that will shape our future and city. Now, this baby is actually Blair's. He is going to be running this program in 2022. So I don't want to take his limelight. Blair, why don't you tell us about Prototype Street and Lane and what you're looking for in 2022?
Cool, thanks, Jacinta. So yeah, as Jacinta just mentioned, it's going to be an interactive exhibition at Wesley Place, where we were in 2021. The types of, I guess, partners we're looking to engage with and provide some EOIs for, if we're kind of after event partners who are working on things that are involved in a smart city. So things about test beds, sensors, 5G enablement, all of that sort of technology that enables a city to become a smart city. Things that are always kind of mentioned, still feels like a myth, but they're still being worked on: autonomous vehicles, drones, including like drone delivery and transport, and exploring other public transport opportunities. Anyone that's working in sustainable construction, but also providing sustainable methods for water waste and heat emissions management, looking at the climate change effect on cities, and anyone who's working on a project to help mitigate that. We're also after proposals that provide accessibility, mobility, and safety in the city for all people. Robots are still a thing. I saw there's like some new Amazon home robot that just came out. They're absolutely going to be part of our future. They're here now already. We're after anyone in Melbourne who may be working on robotics, automation, that sort of thing. Energy futures as well is really important. Anyone who's working in renewable energies and has a project to showcase, would love to hear from you. And also the future of work and urban land use. So how a city street is enabled for the future workers of the city, and the visitors, the people who come to play, the people who come to live as well. Yeah, that's really the most I guess, roundup of Prototype Street themes that we're looking for. We want them to be always on with activations. So if they're interactive, we'd love to see something that people can come up to and engage with, but would also love exhibitions that have someone from your organization there to help explain things to the audience, and help them understand what you're working on, but also how your project fits into the future, the theme of Prototype Street. So yeah, we're put a call out as well. If you have I think you can indicate in the EOI form that you're interested in Prototype Street. And yeah, you'll be hearing from me when we review the EOIs. Thanks so much. Are we on to Kate now? Thanks, Kate. This is who's going to talk about accessibility and diversity requirements.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kate, and yeah, let's chat about accessibility and diversity. Can I get the next slide, please?
Just before you go on, Kate, I'll just say to the audience as well, this section that Kate's about to deliver is the last section from us, but we are here to answer any questions as well. So if you do have questions, please put them in the YouTube chat and we'll be able to answer them in a few minutes' time. So just if you do have any questions in mind, drop them in the chat now.
Yep, looking forward to those questions. It's always good to hear from you guys and share the answers to those questions with everybody, because if you have a question, chances are everybody else has a question and wants to hear the answer to that too. So please do pop those questions in the chat. So yeah, onto accessibility requirements. I think the key element to this is what Georgia mentioned at the very start, which is bringing the community together to build a better future. So when you're thinking about your event, we want to see how you're incorporating that inclusivity and accessibility into the core of what you're wanting to deliver. So over the course of COVID, we've seen a lot of digital accessibility being built into events. So that people can attend from a distance or attend digitally with captions. And these are the kinds of things that we want to see taken forward into events in the future. So we want to see that being delivered as we move forward out of the roadmap. We want to be including people and making sure that those accessibility arrangements are not left behind and taken forward into events as we move past the COVID phases. So as you can see on the screen, we've got the minimum physical requirements for venues. So all of our hub venues will be fitted out by us with these minimum requirements. So accessible emergency exits, toilets, ramps into the venue, and pathways being wide enough to accommodate mobility devices. So these are the kinds of things we want to see in your event space if you're not going to be in one of our hubs. But of course, these are the minimum requirements. So we want to see everybody going above and beyond. So we're talking about every aspect of the event. For example, ticketing, what kind of information are you gathering from your attendees in terms of their requirements? So asking people if they need Auslan interpretation, whether you're going to be accepting companion cards, and talking about those things and getting that conversation going at the very start of your event experience to let people know that you have their accessibility in mind and that you are willing to meet them where they need to be in order to simply attend your event. So we've got a little bit of information about best practice there as well. So when you're using your digital platforms in your venues, and that flows through to your content of your event as well. So check out that access checklist. That'll be really helpful for just going through and systematically making sure that every aspect of your event is accounted for in terms of accessibility. So onto the content. Can I get the next slide, please? Yep. So we've got the COVID safety as well, which I just touched on, which we will need to work with you to make sure that we're adhering to all public health requirements. And as we've seen, these can change, but we will be working with you to continue the conversation around how to make your event COVID safe. We will have been to a lot of COVID safe events by the time of March next year, but we will be continually updating our processes around this, and we will look forward to working with you on that. There's a little bit of information up there on the screen around physical distancing, capacity management, and any digital and online components, protecting your staff, collecting contact tracing data, and the responsible management of that data, privacy, and management of any eventual vaccine passport systems if that becomes a health requirement mandate. So we've got another bit of information here, just a tiny little snapshot there of the demographics of our city. So when we're talking about bringing the community together, we want to represent the community and show that we are taking diversity and representation seriously. So as you can see, that just over 50% of our city is female, almost half speak another language than English at home, and over half are born overseas. We will, I mean, this is information from previous research, so interesting to know whether that's changed. And then we've got some unreported statistics as well. So gender identity, access requirements, and sexuality as well. So we want to be representing these, and again, going above and beyond. So we want to hear from you about how your event reflects the community and isn't inclusive, and how you're going to show that you are available to everybody and being safe and inclusive. So there's a good example in our Zoom at the moment. We've got our name and our pronouns. So that's an example of using inclusive language, and the benefits are multitude, but including the fact that you'll be able to reach a wider audience and have better and deeper conversations. A little question around Auslan interpretation from the audience there. So do you organise Auslan interpretation? We do have some support for organising Auslan interpretation, but it will depend on your event. So if you're interested in talking to us about that, get in touch and we'll assess the requirements of your event. We also have another point, which is that we do have ongoing relationships with traditional owners in the Melbourne area. So we'll be discussing various ways of working with traditional owners on this year's festival. And as we've mentioned, we do welcome applications from Aboriginal organisers and individuals, and events that support our Aboriginal communities. Our team are available for advice, and there is support available through Aboriginal Melbourne, which could be applicable to your event, depending on what you're presenting. But do get in touch if you fall into that category and are looking for support in terms of submitting your EOI. And another question, will there be some guidance or point of contact to engage with Aboriginal communities in planning our events? Again, it depends on your event, but we are always open to taking your event and your event information to our ongoing relationships within the City of Melbourne. to make sure that you are supported in presenting your event and engaging with Aboriginal communities correctly and safely and properly. So just onto our key dates. We've got a few more weeks until the EOIs closes, 24th of October. Within November, we'll be shortlisting your applications and scheduling time for you to meet with our team. And by the 1st of December, we're hoping to notify successful applicants so we can then use the next few months to finalize your event details and images for marketing and communications. That's really key, getting that information across to us. And setting up your contracting and letters of agreements. And that will be in February. Then March will be on the path to delivering the festival. So we'll get you all together for an event partner morning tea and information session. And in April, exciting program launch. We'll have everything locked in, ready to go, and we can all focus on pushing out our tickets and getting our audiences excited for the 9th to the 15th of May, which is when Melbourne Knowledge Week 2022 is on. And then post-event stuff we'll have a little survey that we'll send around, and your carbon reporting data, which we will help you with along the way as well. And then there's the contact details up there on the screen as well for your reference. So we've had a couple of questions already. Any further questions we'll be happy to take now, and across the team, we've got a wealth of knowledge and advice. So you can pop that in the chat now, or you can email us if you like a personalized conversation. So yeah.
Thanks, Kate. It looks as though there's no more questions in the chat other than the ones that you responded to earlier on. Maybe we'll just do a really long drawn out thank you and goodbye, just in case it gives people that extra 20 seconds to think up their question. But on behalf of the whole team, thank you so much for tuning in today. As Kate has said already, we'll just reiterate again, it's always better to reach out early and often as you're putting your EOI together. As you can imagine, we do tend to get a lot of inquiries in the 48 hours before the deadline. And given especially that deadline is now on a weekend, it might be fair to say we might not be as on top of the inboxes over the weekend. So reach out early if you've got any questions or curiosities, and we'll be more than happy to help you with those, because we'd rather see your application come in a good shape rather than leaving you to guess at what might be. Whilst we wait for potentially any last questions to come in, Jen, any final words from you?
Thanks, Georgia. I think probably just to reiterate that the expression of interest is very much, it's a concept. The more viability you can demonstrate in your application, the better. But I know that particularly in academic institutions, the term expression of interest can imply a massive amount of work. It's a completely different beast to what we're dealing with here. So if you have an idea and you're not quite sure how to flesh it out, I would say get in touch with the team to talk it through, because sometimes we have been able to bring people together or say, we know someone else is working on that idea, let's put you together with them, and to foster those connections and collaborations as well. So don't self-edit your idea if you're not sure how you're going to execute it. Sometimes the great ideas need a bit of shepherding through to reality, and that's really what we're here for. It's part of our remit as a team, is to build that capacity in the sector, and we completely acknowledge that For some of you, research or prototyping or, whatever your area of expertise is may not include event delivery. So, but that's what our area of expertise is. So we are here to support you in that. So don't be discouraged, and please reach out if you think, I might have a good idea, not quite sure how to make it happen.
Looks like, thanks, Jen. Looks like there's no further questions. I've just thought of one really specific thing that we didn't cover in the presentation that I might just finish off with, which is if you're thinking of submitting an EOI that is about an installation that's week-long or an exhibition, something that we're really prioritizing this year because it's worked well in previous years and we want to start focusing on it is like, tell us what the exhibition is throughout the week, but also think of as many as possible ways to activate that exhibition. So if you have talks that are at the exhibition, or if you have like a hands-on workshop that's to do with the exhibition, that's something we're really looking for those exhibitions and installations. Just a super specific point. Great. Well, I think that's everything. Looks like there's no further questions. Thank you again all so much for your time. And we'll just sit here for a few seconds while Blair